Well, hello there. Let me just scoot a little bit closer to you. Oh, too close, too close. My bad, my bad. So, today, I'm here to talk about 28 Years Later, which came out apparently 7 days ago. Uh, Although I wish I would have watched it 28 days later, because, well, you'll figure out. Now, this is going to be an amateur video. I'm just going to kind of yap about this movie a little bit, but before I actually talk about this movie, 28 Years Later, I want to talk about 28 Weeks Later, which I actually happened to watch after 28 Years Later. Um, Now, me and my mom wanted to hang out today. I'll give a little story to before we entered the movie theater, before we sat down, everything like that. Um, we go to the movie theater, right? Because my mom wanted to hang out with me today. She's been hanging out with her boyfriend a lot, so she wanted to spend the weekend with me. We go to the movie theater, right? I expect to have a good time, especially since my mom's a fan of the series. She's watched 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later. Apparently, this is 28 Months Later, but that got review bombed and kind of probably sucked. I didn't know if it was a show or a movie or not. Because I didn't watch 28 Days Later or 28 Months Later, but we watched 28 Weeks Later afterwards. Anyway, we get into the movie theater, we get our tickets, and the guy tells us to go to room 8, or 9. We go to room 9, and apparently it's the wrong movie. We got told to go to the wrong room. Apparently it was room 6, and room 9 was Megan 2. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I wish we stayed in Megan 2. I know that wouldn't have been the right thing to do, because that's not the movie we paid for, but you get to figure out why I wish we stayed in Maine too. Anyway, we go to the movie, we go to the right, we get our seats, everything like that. We wait for the trailers, whatever, movie starts. But before I talk about that movie, let's talk about 28 Weeks Later. Now, we watched 28 Weeks Later after we got back home, which was after we got home from BJ's because we had dinner. It was really nice. BJ's is a really good place. So if you have a BJ's around you, make sure to go there. So we got home. We watched 27 weeks later, or 28 weeks later. I'll get that number wrong a lot. I'll probably say 24 a lot. Now, we get home, watch the full movie, and off the bat, I'm just going to say this right now. I do not remember 28 Weeks Later. I watched it because I remembered some of the beginning scenes, but it is a phenomenal movie. 100%. A phenomenal movie. Just the acting, the plot, like the story of it, and it is, like, obviously this is spoilers for both of these movies. No duh. I said that this is a review of them, so if you're not expecting spoilers, then that's kind of on you. And if you want, I will probably put a timestamp up so you can skip to when I talked about 28 years later if you don't want to hear about me yap about the first game, or first movie. So, the first movie was really good because it was a tragic movie. Like, so many characters that you didn't want to die, but something I like that they did about this movie is that the characters that died didn't die in like a whatever kind of way. You know how a lot of movies or shows kill off characters in such like a fashion, like they didn't matter. A lot of these characters that did die mattered. Like the soldier, I forgot his name, but the soldier, the sniper guy, he died in a horrific way, but he did it so that they could get away. Because, well, let me explain the plot of the movie just in case you've never seen it. So, the beginning of the movie starts off in a little cabin or house, and believe there's 7 people in it. Now, these 7 people, only 2 of them matter, because 2 of them are the father and mother of the 2, what I would consider to be main characters of this story. A brother and a sister. And the brother, who you'll find out is more genetically related to the mom, is immune to the rage virus. Now, from what I understand, the rage virus isn't like the zombie virus. It just makes you mad. Like, it makes you want to just tear people like that. Sorry, I went a little extreme there. But I don't think it's like the zombie virus where you get a craving for human flesh. And these zombies are especially not like normal zombies because they're fast and they're aggressive. So, that's what I get from this. So, that's the beginning of the movie. And basically, what happens throughout the movie, they end up finding the mom. Because the dad abandons the mom in the cabin since it gets swarmed, since some little boy was like, help me. They let him in because, he's a little child. They eventually end up breaking in. They eat everyone, including the kid, I think. But they don't end up getting the wife, the mother. She ends up surviving. However, this is where it gets tragic. The mom ends up surviving, and the 2 kids end up going and finding her because they go back to their old house, which she's apparently just been kind of like living in. And the reason they go back to the old house is just to find old photos and things like that they used to have, but they exit outside of city limits, where they're not supposed to go. Which you can say that's stupid, but it's definitely not even close to the amount of stupid decisions. Plus, in this movie, at the beginning, it's suspected that no infected are left. So it's reasonable for them to go out and do this. So once they get to the mom's house, the brother or son finds his mom in the attic. And obviously he's a little scared, but he does give her a hug. He runs off because she's squeezing her pretty tight, or squeezing him pretty tightly. At first I thought it was a girl, but apparently it's a boy. And they eventually ended up taking her into custody. I'm surprised they didn't just shoot her dead there. Well, honestly, it probably would have been better if they just shot her dead there. Because they take her into custody, and eventually the dad finds out that, hey, my wife is alive. The one that I abandoned. So he has higher security clearance. He's able to meet up with his wife. But before I explain what happens next, there's a little exposition given by this, I think it's like this nurse or doctor. And she explains that the wife, or the mother, is immune. Just like this kid said. That's what I said before. They're immune. But they're not immune in the sense where you can't transmit it. So, what happens is the dad, who does not know that she's infected, ends up making out with the wife, who is kind of just sitting on a gurney table, because she can't really do anything. And this infects him very, very quickly. And because this isn't like a hive mind infection, he just starts absolutely killing her. And it is horrifying. Like, I'm not the kind of guy to be like, oh my god, when something happens. Like, I don't cry at movies a lot. I don't really care if you do, honestly. But, like, this genuinely was like, oh my god. That's why I'm saying this movie is tragic. And don't get attached to the characters, because they die. Okay, it's pretty tragic. So, the mom ends up dying in a horrifying way, because she gets beaten half to death. Well, she gets beaten to death by her own husband, who gets mad at her. He ends up escaping and ends up affecting a bunch of people. It might have sounded like I said affecting, I meant infecting a bunch of people. Eventually, the nurse/doctor is able to get the kids out of there, the sister and the brother. The sister, I don't think, is immune to the infection, but the brother is. And I think it has something to do with the fact they have, like, tetrachromia or something. I forgot what the word is, but it affects your eye color. I don't know if that's specifically what it is that's preventing them from infecting. You can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong or not, because maybe you watch the other ones and you're like, you have more knowledge, but whatever. So anyway, they end up having to, like, evacuate the city. However, comes a point where they just need to start mowing everyone down, because so many people are becoming infected from this one guy, right? He's built different. He's got zombie plot armor, because this guy survives getting firebombed later in the movie, all right? So they just start mowing people down, right? The government starts mowing people down because you can't trust anyone to be infected or not, all right? Because the infected are running amongst the humans, and I figured they were going to do this. But luckily, one of the snipers, or one of the, I'll just call him one of the snipers, one of the military guys, ends up helping out these two kids, and the nurse helped them escape. Now, after a bit, he does end up dying, and pretty in a cruel way, he gets burned alive. Yeah, burned alive, because he was trying to help start the car. He was pushing the car, there was flamethrower guys behind him. Yeah, he gets burned alive. Pretty cool way to, not cool, cruel way to die. At the end of the movie, they do eventually end up getting out, but the nurse/doctor lady eventually ends up dying. And guess what? It's even better, because the sister, or daughter of the father, has to kill her father to save her brother, because he's infected. Yeah, really tragic story. Now, I honestly will say that this is probably one of my favorite zombie movies. My favorite zombie movie before was Zombieland, but I don't know. This definitely takes the cake, in my opinion, because it's so tragic, and the way that it happens isn't dumb. Like, I hate when movies will pull this, like, oh, like, they'll do the dumbest thing ever, which causes bad things to happen, and it's like, bro, no one would ever do this. Like, this is so unrealistic. So, yeah. In short, that is 28 weeks later. Take a little breather. Okay? Take a little breather. Because now, we're on to 28 years later. Oh. Oh, brother. So, I told the story. We go into the movie theater, right? There's no one there at first. A couple guys come in. Maybe like two, I think it's like two groups of people come in, right? And so we're watching the movie. The beginning of the movie, again, this is spoilers, starts off similar to 28 Weeks Later, where there's this big commotion and people start dying. Um, the thing is, though, I think this beginning of the movie is weaker because in 28 Weeks Later, it sets a tone of somewhat peaceful tranquility. This group of people who, while yeah, are in a zombie apocalypse, are still surviving and are, you don't think they're just going to start dying left and right. Whereas this movie kind of already paints the picture that something wrong is going on immediately, and you kind of figure that people are going to start dying. Not saying it's a bad beginning. I definitely did hook me, but don't worry. The beginning is misleading, okay? The beginning of this movie is very misleading, and the reason is because this amount of action does not happen at all throughout the entire movie besides the beginning. I'm just going to say it. So, let's talk about the main story of 28 Years Later. Now, before you comment and say, oh, you're just getting info mixed up, or oh, you're probably just remembering something wrong. Buster, I am recording this the day I watched it. I'm recording this the day I watched it. Okay? I'm not misremembering anything here. Now, let me take a quick little sip of water. My throat's a little dry. And we're going to have to do a lot of ranting here, alright? Alright. So, let's start at the beginning. The story revolves around, for the most part, two characters, a mom and his son. Now, the son's name, from what I remember, is Spike, and the mom's name, I can't quite remember, but the main character is Spike. And the beginning of the movie starts out with Spike and his dad going out on an expedition to, well, what you might initially think to be to collect supplies or something like that. No. The expedition is actually to teach Spike how to hunt and how to kill the infected. Now, Spike is 12 years old, by the way, and this is his father allowing him to do this. Now, I'm not a parent, right? I'm 18. And if I was a parent, that'd be a little concerning. No, I'm not a parent. But as a human being with common sense, I think I can say for certain that having your kid go out in infected, zombie-ridden woods at 12 years old, mind you, these people have bows and arrows. They don't got guns. They don't got military-level equipment. This kid doesn't even know what an iPhone is. And they're expecting him to go out and hunt infected. So, already, this is kind of stupid. Since the point of this expedition isn't to collect supplies, isn't to look for survivors, it's to teach this kid how to hunt. Now, they go out, and they do end up killing some infected. Now, I didn't go into this show, or this movie, with a frame of reference. But now that I have one, which is 28 Weeks Later, why are the zombies so fat? Like, the whole point of the rage virus was just to make them super angry. Not make them hungry. Now, I don't know if this was explained in 28 months after, so if it was, please tell me in the comments down below, but I'm almost certain there is no reason there should be these fat zombies. It doesn't make sense. And you know what makes even less sense? There's an alpha now. Now, not to be particular, but the term alpha was actually made up and actually refers, because when you're talking about an alpha, it typically talks about a pack of wolves, and alphas aren't really actually alphas. They're more of just the parents of the wolves. It's hard to explain. Watch a video about it. It'll cover it better than I do. But the point is that this is stupid. Because the whole point of the virus is to just make people angry and make them want to kill people and kill things. But apparently now there's a hierarchical system. Now, initially this didn't piss me off, right? Initially this didn't make me mad or irk me in any way. But there's one key detail about this movie that I really don't like. The penises. Now look, I'm not someone who's gonna complain if you show me tits, booty cheeks, swang a dangla ding dongs in a movie. I don't care. But why did all of the zombies have to be naked? And why specifically does the alpha have to always have a... I kid you not. There is one scene in this movie that I will talk about later where I swear the chase that is going on, 50% of it is focused on this dude's cock and balls. Like, that really irked me throughout this movie, because I'm in a movie theater with other people, right? And it feels awkward. I'm like just staring at this guy's dong, whether or not it's real, or if it's a prosthetic. It's still like I looked to my mom, and she looked at me first, actually, and we just thought the same thing. Like, what is going on? There was no nudity in the 28 weeks later. The only nudity you saw was covered up by, like, hands. When the mom was naked and getting showered, she was covering herself up. When those two were having sex in that room and the sniper guy was checking them out, you couldn't even see titties. But now there's just butt, naked, whatever. That annoyed me, okay, and was just weird. But anyway, let's skip forward a bit. So eventually they end up getting trapped inside this dilapidating building by a bunch of these infected, including the Alpha. However, the building starts dilapidating because of this stampede of deer or whatever that's causing enough vibrations to knock down the house. How did the house not get knocked down before? I don't know. Don't ask me. Circumstances that I'm willing to let slide. However, they eventually start running to the land bridge because there's a land bridge that connects the little island that they live on to the mainland. Now, the mainland also kind of seems like an island, somewhat. So, they're both like islands, I guess, but we'll call the big island mainland, because that's what they call it, and we'll call the little island the island. So they're walking on the land bridge, which, by the way, they're not running. They know the infected are behind them, and they're not running. And whoop-de-doo, the Alpha starts chasing them. Now, I'm going to give you a little visual representation of what the Alpha is doing versus what these guys are doing. Now, you won't be able to see my face. Ignore the pajama pants. I know I'm wearing a fly shirt about pajama pants. I know it's confusing. Here's how the Alpha is running. He's a runner. He's a track star. Here is how they are running. You know, like they're in water. How does the Alpha not catch up to them? Like, I get, obviously, they're not supposed to die, because that would just end the movie. But how does the Alpha not catch up to them? Whatever. I can let that slide as well. Maybe he's just not built different, right? Maybe he's not actually an Alpha. Stupid. Anyway, they get inside, and they kill the Alpha with this crossbow bolt, this big crossbow bolt, and they start celebrating the fact that this little kid killed a zombie. For some reason, his dad calls it the Giant, because I'm pretty sure he lied about the authenticity of his kill. He did kill one of the fat ones, but he didn't kill one of the actual runners, you know, the skinny ones, because apparently there's skinny ones, fat ones, really skinny ones, and then big ones who always have their big fat penises out. Stupid. So he starts celebrating it. Eventually, Spike, the kid, leaves because he's like, apparently they're trying to make him drink alcohol. He's 12, by the way. And he just is fed up with the party. So he eventually leaves, and he also finds his dad cheating on his wife, which I actually forgot to mention. The mom. Oh, the mom. So, the mom in this story is sick and is dying. Now, at first, if you're watching this movie, you might think maybe she's infected and like she's fighting off the infection, since apparently there's immune people. And while immune people are immune, they don't really seem to be doing that well. Okay? At least the mom in 28 Weeks Later wasn't. She was kind of down on her luck, kind of looking not too good. Alright? Kind of weak. Although that might have been because she hasn't eaten in a while, I'm not sure. No, it's not. And I will explain that very soon. It's revealed at around the end of the movie, but I will explain it soon because of how stupid it makes what Spike is about to do seem. Now, you're probably wondering, what does Spike do? Well, let me tell you. After seeing his dad cheat on his wife with some random girl, who, by the way, he also witnesses him eat her out, it wasn't graphic, but it's still like, okay. You couldn't just see them making out. Why does it have to be so weird and like meter box, like just weird? Um, so he eventually, right, he starts disliking his dad because his dad also lied to him. Because there's another key fact. See, when they were in the house, right, the house that the infected led them in, they saw a fire. And after he got home from seeing his dad cheat on his wife, he talked to what I assume to be his grandpa or uncle or something. I don't remember it being explained who he was. I'm assuming it's like his uncle. And he says that that's most likely a doctor or the doctor. I forgot his full name, but we'll call him the doctor. So essentially his dad lied to him and he starts not believing him as much. Now, mind you, this kid is going off of what his uncle said, and eventually his father does tell him the truth, that it's the doctor, who he describes as crazy because when he first encountered him, he was surrounded by dead bodies he laid out in a giant bonfire. You know, the kind of guy that sounds like he's a little kooky. Might not be a doctor, might just, I mean, how do they, I don't know. Okay, so, guess what Spike does? Guess what Spike does? So, he's got a sick mom, he doesn't like his dad, okay, so guess what he does? Well, after that night, he formulates a plan to take his sick mother out of bed, burn down a shack to get the attention of the people who watch the wall, right? Because that's how they let people in and out and defend the perimeter. He takes his mom while they're being distracted and leaves. I want to remind you guys, this kid is 12 years old and missed half his shots in bow practice against the actual runners. And this guy's taking his sick mom, who, by the way, ends up saving his life. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, that's pretty stupid. Oh, don't worry. There's a key detail that makes this part a whole lot dumber. So you see, I'm gonna spoil a bit of the ending for you. And what the mom is sick with. She has cancer. And so, I don't think a random doctor in the middle of the woods is going to be able to cure cancer. And she knows this. She knows she has cancer. And before you guys who've watched this movie who want to defend it say, oh, but she was in a delirious state because of her cancer. No, she wasn't. When Spike took her out of the wall, okay, out of the little island, she was like, wait, we're on the mainland. Where's your father? She was aware of what was going on. And he told her, oh, we're going to get you to a doctor. We're gonna help you. Unless he has an MRI machine and a bunch of I get this kid doesn't know this stuff. How is he gonna cure her cancer? And why didn't she just say she had cancer? As a mother, instead of just, I don't know, letting your 12-year-old son take you, a cancer-ridden woman, and himself, who just has a bow and arrow, out to some random kooky doctor, how about instead of letting him do that, you say, hey son, I have cancer. That's not curable by a doctor, so this trip is pointless. So, yeah. Dumb as hell. I don't understand why she didn't just say that. But I know why they didn't just say that. Because the director and the person that made this movie obviously wanted to continue the story. And wanted them to get to a certain point. Anyway, continuing the story, they wander through the woods a bit. And they eventually end up taking rest at this chapel-looking place. I also forgot to mention another detail earlier. So, I'll clear that up really quick. Because it'll become important at the end of the movie. So, at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a character who you think doesn't matter and is just an introduction to the movie. But no, he matters because he appears at the very end. And that's the kid that eventually that escapes that house I was talking about where chaos and zombies start turning and everything like that. Right? He escapes, finds his dad. His dad's some religious zealot who's like, the zombies are coming to cure us of in retribution. Stupid stuff, okay? Gives him a cross. He hides because the zombies start eating his dad or vomiting on him and turning him. And then he eventually escapes. How does he escape? I don't know. He's like 10 years old. He's not outrunning a zombie, a fully grown, hungry... Well, they're not hungry. Not supposed to be hungry. So there's that detail I forgot. And there's another detail I forgot. When they entered that abandoned house, there was a man who was tied up upside down and had, like, words written out, or letters written in him. Eventually, Spike had to kill him because he turned into an infected. These don't seem like important details. But they appear at the very end. And it's super stupid. So anyway, clearing that up. Eventually, the mom and her son end up resting at a chapel. And while they're both sleeping, by the way, they're both just sleeping out in the open, one of the fat ones comes up and tries to attack Spike. So the cancer-ridden mother has to save her son, who has a bow and arrow, by wrapping this thing's head in a tarp and smacking it against a rock a bunch of times. Which is why I thought that she might be infected and she's holding off the infection, because she's immune. Maybe she has some sort of rage and strength she's holding on inside her. Nope, she has cancer. And it's also affecting her memories. I don't know if I don't remember them specifically saying if it was brain cancer or not, but my mom, who was listening somewhat more than me, I think, also, she just told me that it's bad cancer and it's spreading everywhere. Whatever. So after this night, from what I remember, they continue traveling until they eventually reach this gas station, right? Or they start getting chased, from what I remember, and they have to enter this gas station. Now, the gas station is full of, like, old... It was a specific kind of gas, but it's flammable, obviously. They enter the gas station, they start choking on the gas, the zombies enter in after them, they duck to the floor, and one of these military guys that was introduced a little earlier shows up. Now, the reason I didn't mention him is because I'm also kind of forgetting some of these parts, but it's not because his part is really not important. For a couple reasons. First, he's in a flashback, where apparently these military men were on this island, and they just started getting eaten by zombies, which, by the way, these people are terrible at their jobs. Like, they barely shoot the zombies at all, they just all die, except for this guy, right? Now, the reason that this guy doesn't matter that much is because he's introduced, right? And off the bat, in my opinion, he's the best character. But he dies about 10 minutes into actually seeing the character. And he dies right after and before probably the worst scene I have ever seen in a movie in a hot minute. So, yeah. Real fun stuff. So, the military guy eventually ends up saving them. He shoots the gas, which kills all the zombies, burns them alive. And then he saves them. He introduces himself, starts complaining about the mom because she's, like, having migraines and she's, like, cancer. Alright? It's painful. So yeah. They start traveling together. The reason he's the best character is because he's funny. None of these other characters are funny. All of them are stupid or just not likable. He's funny. The best character, by far. But he gets killed off. And not really much happens when they're talking. They're just making some comedic jokes, some, like, comparisons between how he lives in the modern world and these people haven't even seen an iPhone or technology. You know, some funny jokes like that. It's not a bad scene. Honestly, that's the best part of the movie. But shortly after that, the mom starts hearing a infected. Now, we were introduced to this infected previously, but again, it's somewhat of an irrelevant scene that you probably don't think much of, and you don't think is going to come back. But the scene is of and pardon my French here, viewers, right? Mute this little part if you don't want to hear the F word. A pregnant zombie. Yes, we see a scene of a pregnant zombie. That's just wonderful. So that pregnant zombie comes in right now because the mom, who is cancerous and is in some delirious state, because I'm assuming it's like brain cancer in some way, ends up finding the zombie in this, like, train, right? This derailed, like, not functional train. And the zombie is, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, is giving birth. The zombie is giving birth. Okay? And the mom helps the zombie give birth by holding her hands, taking the baby out, and having Spike cut the umbilical cord. Meanwhile, the military dude's just sitting back like, what the f is going on here? Like he should, like any human being would. Okay? So this happens. The military guy ends up shooting the infected girl because she snaps out of, oh right, I forgot I'm a zombie and not a pregnant woman, and starts attacking them, so he shoots her. Now, let me explain to you why this doesn't make sense. This is a virus. Viruses are non-living organisms. The virus would have most likely tried to feed or infect this fetus, this baby. But the baby comes out uninfected. How? I don't know! God, I don't... Like, this movie just caused me so much internal, like, what? The baby comes out uninfected. Perfectly fine. Perfectly healthy-looking baby. Which does not make sense. Because... And why exactly would this infected person, whose mind is being controlled by a virus, feel pain, labor pains? Why would she give a fuck about being in labor and giving birth? I feel like if she, even when she was pregnant, which, by the way, this insinuates that the zombies are, okay, they're mashing their genitals together, they're having sex. Don't ask me how that works. That's a whole rabbit hole that I don't want to go down because it's even dumber than what this movie has already presented. Okay? But anyway, so they have the baby, he shoots her, and then reasonably, because this is the best character, let me remind you, is like, hey, put that baby down. It just came out of an infected woman's hoo-ha. Okay? Put it down. And for some reason, because they need to kill the best character off, he starts backing up suspiciously towards this hole that's in the ceiling. Yeah, if it's not cliche enough, he gets alien grabbed through the ceiling and gets his head ripped off. But if you thought the terrible dog shit was over, buddy, oh, you're still in for a treat. It gets worse. Maybe not worse, but it gets bad. Because remember when I talked about the scene, the chase scene, where it's 50% this guy's cock and balls on the camera? Well, this is it. This is it. The guy that ripped his head off is the alpha, who I already explained doesn't make sense why there's an alpha when this virus is just supposed to make people really angry and want to kill people. But whatever, we're not going to talk about that. If you guys have a reason, explanation for that, maybe it was in 28 months after, go ahead and type it in the comments. But basically, this scene is him chasing them through the train car. It's a very boring scene. By the way, all the zombie encounters are boring. It's literally just them shooting arrows, and then I guess a semi-cool, like, camera shot of the arrow going through them. And that's why I said the beginning of this movie lies to you. It makes you think... Sorry, my dog is dreaming. It makes you think this movie is a lot cooler than it is. It's not. The zombie scenes you see in the beginning are more like 28 weeks later. Through the rest of this movie, nope. They're terrible. They're terrible. It's just some lame shots of them turning back and shooting arrows. That's it. Nobody gets overwhelmed by zombies besides in the first part of the movie. Yeah, so anyway, eventually they end up escaping the train car, and the doctor shows up to tranquilize the big guy. Now, the doctor's covered in this, like, iodine stuff, I think that's what it's called, which is supposed to prevent the virus. Which, by the way, the virus is not airborne, and I'm pretty sure you can even get their blood on you without it getting, like, if it gets in your eyes, your mouth, any of your orifices, I assume that's what causes it. So why is he rubbing it all over his skin, unless he has cuts on his skin? It's not going to prevent him from getting the virus if he has a bunch of... You get my point. It's stupid. All right? Much like most of this movie, it's stupid. Okay? So he ends up tranquilizing the giant guy, the Alpha, and takes the head of the guy, the soldier, out of his hands. You'll figure out why later. Now, does he kill the Alpha while he's tranquilized? No. And apparently, that guy's been around for 3 years. The Alpha. So, for order to him to know that, he's had to have been living around the Alpha for 3 years. Now, where is he getting the tranquilizing equipment for this? It's never explained, Buster. Never explained, Buster. So, yeah, he ends up taking the head. They end up taking to his camp. And blah, blah, blah. This is where the movie started to go downhill, and I really just wanted the movie to be over so I could crap on it. But don't worry, there's still bad stuff to come. Because this movie tries to become philosophy. Yeah, this movie tries to become philosophical. However you say it. Now, I don't have a problem with philosophy. If you believe in philosophy, if you believe in certain ideologies, whatever. Believe whatever you want to believe. Believe a donut is the ruler of the entire universe. I don't give a flying fadoodle cake. But if you're making a movie about zombies, and at the end of the movie, you try to pull some philosophical malarkey, it's stupid. And with the philosophical aspect of this, funny enough, is the idea of a Latin phrase called memento mori, which means remember death, or I think it's like remember death, or to not be afraid of death, essentially. Something like that. And the way this is introduced is by this guy having towers and towers of bones and human skulls. Yeah, really sane guy you should be taking your advice from. Someone who calls himself a doctor, who's living in the woods, infested by zombies, who has towers of human bones and a whole tower of human skeletons. Really the guy you should be taking your philosophy from, if I do say so myself. But yeah, so there's that. And he ends up getting taught this philosophy by the doctor. The doctor tells him not to be afraid of death, and to remember the ones who died, and to remember blah 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 blah, a bunch of bullcrap. And he also tells the son she has cancer, which apparently the mom knew. Now, at this point in the movie, I was fading out. So, honestly, I didn't hear if the mom said, yeah, I know I had cancer, but my mom did. So, if I'm getting that wrong, blame my mom. Alright, don't blame me. But regardless, it should be pretty obvious that if he knows that she has cancer, then she probably knows as well. Now, how did he figure out that she has cancer? I mean, he doesn't have an x-ray machine, so I'm assuming he's just a really good doctor. Yeah, that's what I'm just going to assume. So, eventually, they end up washing the skin and stuff off of the soldier guy's head, putting him on the mountain of bones, or the mountain of skulls, and then they eventually do the same to the mom, because the mom has cancer and she's going to die. Now, the reason I think that the whole memento mori thing does not fit here, and I think it's stupid, is because wouldn't it make more sense for the whole thing to be remember death? If you, I don't know, buried her in your island village with, a tombstone and memorabilia, not just putting her skull on a mountain of other random people's skulls. I feel like, yeah, he's gonna remember his mom, but what if he ever wants to, look back on her, or go visit her in some way? Yeah, he's not going to this random old dude's mountain of skulls, and then magically picking out which one is hers. So, overall, and this is around the end of the movie, but, it's not quite the end. And you might think, oh, it's gotta get good, right? It's gotta get better. It's gotta have a comeback ending. I'm gonna peek the mic here and say, wrong! If you couldn't hear that, I said wrong. Okay? Wrong. 100% terribly wrong. After this, guess what he does? He takes the baby, because remember, they still have the infected baby, puts it in a basket, and then brings it to the village, and leaves a note telling them that he's leaving and he's living in the woods. Leaving his dad without a wife, which, yeah, he was cheating on, but still, fucked up, and a son. This kid's 12 years old! This kid's 12 years old! I wouldn't do this. I would not do this. I'm 18. I would not just leave and live on an island of or the mainland of infected zombies. Yeah, so he leaves to live on the mainland, but guess what? He ends up getting swarmed by zombies. Big surprise. But guess what? Guess who comes to save him? I'll give you 10 seconds to guess. So if you guess the kid at the beginning, you're right. How many of you guessed that in 10 seconds? The kid at the beginning. The blonde kid. Because that's who I assume it is, because guess what? He has an upside down cross, just like the one his dad gave him, except it wasn't upside down, on his neck, blonde, and has a group of people who... I'm going to see if I can flash what they are wearing on screen up. Because if I can, what are they wearing? Mind you, right? I'm going to flash all the other characters up on screen right now. I want you to see what the characters look like, what the main character looks like, what all the other characters look like, and why this is such a shock. Okay? Here you go. Yeah, that's what all the other characters look like, and that's what these characters look like. And they have spears and weapons, and they start doing, like, acrobatics to kill the zombies. Like, the change in tone is so abrupt. It's like, what? What is going on? And that's the end. I didn't see if there was a post-credit scene because I wanted to get out of there so I could talk crap about the movie. And that's why I said I wish I would have stayed in Megan 2. If you're gonna go to theaters, I don't even care if you've seen all the other movies already, watch them again. Do not spend your money on this movie. Now, I'm gonna say this right now. This movie had nothing woke in it. This movie had nothing like that. No identity politics. Just pure, unadulterated, refined garbage. And this is the same series that made 28 Weeks Later a phenomenal zombie movie. Had me left and right. This movie had me snoozing. Okay. So, anyway, that's gonna be all for this review. Very amateur review. I'm gonna try to edit as much as I can. Maybe I'll add some B-roll. If there's no B-roll, that's because I'm just a small little YouTuber just trying to get my opinion out there. But I'll try to add some pictures of the characters, stuff like that. Yeah. Overall, don't spend your money on this movie. If you're gonna watch a movie, either watch it to see how bad it is, or watch something else. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found some enjoyment of my ranting, because I found no enjoyment from this movie. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.